Hi, everyone. I'm Kathleen Barnes, and welcome back to Precision Health Decoded, where we explore the systems, infrastructure, and real-world implementation challenges shaping the future of precision health. Today's episode is a bit different. It's a reflection on a question I can't seem to shake. So, over the past few weeks, I found myself coming back to the same question over and over again. Have we reached the point where innovation itself is no longer the bottleneck? Sequencing costs are collapsing. Multi-omics is exploding. Methylation, MRD, spatial biology, AI-generated signatures. The field is moving faster than ever. And yet, I'm increasingly not sure the limiting factor is technology anymore. So every conversation I'm having right now, whether with startups, health systems, investors, or national genomics programs, somehow circles back to the same tension. The technology is accelerating faster than our ability to operationalize it. Last week, investor and industry commentator Alex Dickinson posted something on LinkedIn that perfectly captured the moment we're in. He essentially asked, what is actually happening in life science tools and diagnostics right now? And honestly, it's hard to overstate how extraordinary this moment feels. We're watching a full-scale acceleration across nearly every layer of the stack. Element, Ultima, Roche moving aggressively into sequencing and diagnostics. Illumina simultaneously pushing methylation chemistry, spatial biology, proteomics, mapped reads, single-cell workflows. MRD is exploding. MSED continues pushing toward becoming a massive new category. AI is now layered across virtually everything. And increasingly, the field feels less like a stable industry and more like a technological arms race. Faster, cheaper, higher resolution, more dimensions, more signals. And to be clear, much of this innovation is genuinely extraordinary. Some of these tools would have sounded almost impossible a decade ago. But Alex made another point that I think is even more important. Despite all this acceleration, we actually know remarkably little about what all this innovation is materially changing. Which platforms are truly improving outcomes? Which signals matter clinically? Which technologies scale? Which become economically sustainable? Which actually alter the trajectory of disease? And in many ways, the field is operating with surprisingly little transparency. What's interesting is that Alex didn't stop at simply pointing out the opacity. He's now trying to build infrastructure around it. A crowdsourced effort called Redepth, aimed at understanding what's actually happening across the life science tools ecosystem. Installed platforms, adoption trajectories, switching behavior, market movement. And honestly, I think that effort itself reflects the deeper point. The field increasingly lacks visibility not only into technologies, but into how technologies are actually being operationalized. And I think that same opacity exists clinically. But it wasn't actually Alex's post that stayed with me. It was one of the comments underneath it. A commenter referenced the recent death of Craig Venter, someone who in many ways helped define the genomics era itself. And they wrote something to the effect of, how can someone who had access to the best sequencing technologies, the best data, decades of biological insight, still die from a recently diagnosed cancer at the age of 79? And honestly, that comment sent chills down my spine. Because I don't think the question is really about Craig Venter. I think it's about the field itself. Because what if the central challenge in precision health is no longer generating data? What if the harder problem is determining which signals matter, for whom, in what clinical context, and how they should actually change care? We're becoming extraordinarily good at generating signals, but far less good at operationalizing meaning. And that distinction matters. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to work across academic medicine, health systems, national genomics programs, and industry. And one thing becomes very clear once you move beyond the excitement of technology itself. Implementation is brutally hard. I learned this firsthand years ago building programs at the Colorado Center for Personalized Medicine. Generating genomic insight was often the easy part. Embedding it into clinical workflows in ways that physicians could trust and act upon inside a 15-minute visit, that's much harder. It's not enough to detect something. You have to know whether the signal is actionable, whether clinicians trust it, whether it integrates into workflow, whether reimbursement exists, whether evidence thresholds are sufficient, and whether patients benefit longitudinally, and whether health systems can operationalize it at scale. Increasingly, I think this is where the real bottleneck lives. Not sequencing, not compute, not assay sensitivity infrastructure, clinical infrastructure, evidence infrastructure, operational infrastructure, governance, workflow, longitudinal integration. And I think AI is amplifying this tension because AI is an extraordinary accelerator, but AI doesn't solve fragmentation. It amplifies whatever system it enters. In well-functioning systems, it's going to accelerate insight. In fragmented systems, it accelerates fragmentation. And I worry sometimes that precision health is approaching a similar moment. We're generating increasingly sophisticated biological signals, but we still haven't fully solved how those signals become decisions and how decisions become care. At the PMWC meeting in Santa Clara a couple months ago now, one thing kept resurfacing over and over again, and I've said this before: implementation. Not whether the technologies work in principle, but whether health systems can actually absorb them. And interestingly, some of the most compelling examples right now aren't necessarily the flashiest technologies. They're systems quietly figuring out deployment, preemptive pharmacogenomics programs, rapid CYP2C19 testing integrated into stroke workflows, health systems operationalizing genomic decision support, national programs building longitudinal infrastructure. Because ultimately, I think the field is beginning to transition from platform innovation to systems innovation, from generating data to figuring out how data actually becomes care. I don't say any of this pessimistically. In many ways, I think precision health is entering its most important phase yet, because the field is finally being forced to confront the difference between generating insight and delivering impact. Ultimately, the groups that matter most in precision health may not be the ones generating the most data. They may be the ones capable of turning data into decisions and decisions into care. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Precision Health Decoded. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe, share, or continue the discussion. And as always, precision health will not be built by technology alone. It will be built by systems that turn data into decisions and decisions into care.